So welcome everyone to today's In Conversation with webinar on electrical automotive manufacture with Comau. We are pleased to welcome our guest speaker, Andrew Lloyd, who is Strategic Marketing Segment Leader for e-mobility. And our host today will be Phil Myers, Head of International Product Development at Pearson. Over to you, Phil.
Hi everybody, and thank you for joining us today. So we're delighted to give you some background and insight into electrical automotive manufacture and the BTEC qualifications and the resources we've developed. So we've been working with Comau for a couple of years now, and we're working on this project, electrical automotive manufacture. We've also developed BTEC qualifications in robotics, and we're really excited to be with an organisation which is at the forefront of automation, robotics and electrical automotive manufacture. So I'm going to pass over to Andrew Lloyd, who's our guest speaker, and he's going to give you some information and some of the background to electrical automotive manufacture and where we are today and where we're going in the future with electrical automotive manufacture. So over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Phil. Good morning to everybody. My name is Andy Lloyd. As Claire mentioned, I'm responsible for strategic marketing of electromobility in Comau. I've been in Comau for a number of years, and in Italy in the headquarters for more or less the last 10, with a long-standing experiences in automation and in automotive automation in particular. Today, I'm going to take you through three fundamental points. There's a few slides here. There's probably a lot of information to take in. We're going to talk a little bit about global trends. We're going to talk a little bit about battery technology development in particular, and then a few comments on global skills and what it means to companies and the industry in general, the transformations that are happening. Next page, please, Phil. Okay, so let's start with a complicated picture, because we need to maybe spend a few comments on where does it all start. The Paris Agreement, the COP21, which was signed back in 2015. Gave a very clear indication of what we needed to do to manage global warming, and one of the key elements of such was the reduction of the dependence on fossil fuels. And so this is a picture that was developed by IRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Association, and it pictures two scenarios in 2017 and in 2050. And then in each side of the chart, you can see the derivation of the energy supply. So where does the electricity come from? From coal, oil, natural gas, biomass, and the other renewables, and where that was in 2017. And then where that energy ended up in demand in fundamentally transportation, manufacturing, and buildings. So in 2017, we saw a picture of approximately 26 petawatt hours of electricity production being generated from significant portions of coal, oil, gas, as well as some contribution from renewables. And if we fast forward to 2050 and look at the same picture, we see 58 petawatt hours, and we see a much more significant contribution from what we call the renewable energies, and a much less from the fossil fuels. And where does this electricity end up? Where does this energy end up? You can see in the blue lines on the right-hand side, a significant portion of electricity moving into transportation, and very similarly in manufacturing industries and in buildings. So this to set a backdrop of why electrification and electrification in transportation in particular is becoming quite important subject globally. If we go to the next page. So let's have a little a recap of what we just saw from the previous slide, because it is a lot to take in. The electrification is emerging as the key solution, but only if it's paired with clean electricity and can be sourced at a low cost. It's going to become the central energy carrier. Is going to grow from 20 to 50% by 2050. Renewable power is obviously the key focus to move away from the fossil fuels. And again, the growth in electricity consumption more than doubling in the next 3 decades. And what does that mean? It means that about 70% of road transport is going to be electrified by 2050. 58% of the building sector and 35% of other industry sectors. So this is the backdrop of everything that's happening. If we move to the next page, in terms of the technology trends, and again we divide the slide here into the electricity supply or generation, the transformation and distribution in the center, and then the utilization on the right hand side. And again here you see the growth in solar panel technology, solar panel implementation, and the utilization in the overall grid. We see very similar trends in terms of the wind turbines, so large turbines with super blades. You know, we're working on projects where we have turbine blades of 100 meters long that we are delivering now to the industry and some of our customers. We have the storage and distribution of electricity either through the grid or through the energy storage, and looking particularly at the energy storage, the amount of effort and the amount of growth that is associated with battery storage, particularly in transportation, but also in some of the renewable developments. I mean, you can't turn the sun off, so batteries are needed to store electricity as it's generated. And on the right hand side, focusing a little bit on transportation, which is more of the Comau focus than maybe the other segments. But you get a flavor of the next 5 years of what's going to happen in transportation, the shift towards electrical vehicles, full electric, and then obviously there's different versions of hybridization that are taking place over the period of time. If we go to the next page, let's talk a little bit more specifically about batteries. And this slide here is to give you a flavor of the transformation that is expected to take place. The time scale here is a little bit shorter. It's between 2020 and 2026. And the source here is from Frost & Sullivan. But taking a lithium-ion battery market in 2020, it has an approximate value of about 15.4 billion. And already by 2026, that has already more than doubled. So the level of investment globally is going to more than double over the next 5 years. And most interestingly, the major end user market is likely to be electrical vehicles. And if you can read the note under the pie chart on the right hand side, it gives you a flavor of the scale of electrical vehicles to consumer electronics in terms of the utilization of the number of battery cells that's required. If you go to the next page, let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen in battery cells. And this is a picture of technology, of batteries in general. We talk about generations of batteries. So we have a current generation of lithium-ion technology, rechargeable batteries that you see in power tools, electric vehicles, other consumer electronics. They have a certain set of capabilities. They also have a certain set of downsides, notably the density of energy stored, the duty cycle of the battery, the safety of the battery, and then obviously the cost all of which require improvements moving into the future decades. Then we look at the next generation of solid state technology, which fundamentally is targeting to resolve the energy density and cost reduction arguments. We call them generation 3B and generation 4. And then in a third step, we have a post-lithium ion technology based around sodium, sulfur, other metals, and other air as the electrolyte compounds, moving out into the back end of this decade and probably into the next. And so in the technology roadmap where we are today in 2022, we are seeing a relatively large scale implementation of generation 3B in particular, with a lot of research development, materials analysis in generation 4 that should come into the production timescale in the second half of this decade. If we move to the next page, just to give you a flavor of some of the developments, and what we want to do here is to really touch on 5 of the key areas of battery development and battery cell development that maybe you read about in the press, and we're using here the examples from the Tesla Battery Day, which was, if I remember correctly, more or less a year and a half ago. and the derivations of change. On the left-hand side of this chart, you can see maybe the descriptors of key changes. You see the potential impact of dollars per kilowatt hour in terms of capacity. You see the impact on range, in this particular case is associated with Tesla. You also see the relationship of capital investment per gigawatt hour and the benefit of the lever on the capex saving. A little bit of an overview on industry implications and the level of disruption. And I think the fundamental message here is that Tesla, which arguably is a pioneer, which others aspire to catch, have chosen five key levers in their next generation of batteries around the design to reduce the amount of material, improve the line speed. In terms of the factory, to eliminate, let me say, non-added value processes like solvent from the electrode. The materials of the anode and the materials of the cathode, changing and using more, let me say, exotic materials than you would traditionally find in battery equipment. So the use of nickel, manganese, cobalt, silicon becoming much more prevalent. And then the integration of the battery cell into the vehicle, where today we take many battery cells and we create what we call a module, and then we take several modules and create them into a battery pack. Very much a focus on eliminating some of those process steps to reduce cost, weight, improve performance, by simplifying fundamentally the process in which the vehicle is produced. And as you can see, there's a level of disruption. There's a level of disruption that each of those is bringing to the market. Some of them very much more disruptive than others. But to give you, let me say, some flavor of what that means to the automotive industry, to the automation of these processes, and into let me say, the technology race and development that's moving forward. Okay, next slide, please. And then the last point I wanted to cover very briefly was around global skills. And Comau is a fully owned subsidiary of Stellantis. And we have been part of the group through Fiat Chrysler Automotive for basically since the inception. And Comau as an organization has been facing this transformation between combustion engine and electrical vehicles, and all of the adjacent technologies like batteries and renewable energies. We've been facing this for some time, and for the last 5 years or so, we've been developing our roadmap in terms of what we need to do with our people, what skills our people need, how do we get the right skills and competencies to the point of use at the most appropriate time. And so there's a picture here of what Comau did as an organization, but what I tried to do here is to give you a reflection of maybe a more renowned organization. So I've used an example here from the Adecco group, some of who you may already know, but fundamentally they did a survey on the automotive industry. They invited a significant number of key players from automotive OEMs and the supply base. A roundtable discussion on what it means to have talent. What does this transformation of the automobile industry and electrification have on the people and the skills that people need, and how do you get those skills? And fundamentally, they came back with five key elements I'm going to take you through very, very briefly. And they all reflect pretty much the same challenges that Comau has faced over the last years in adapting to this development that's happening. So let's to the next slide, please, Phil. So the first one, workers that enter the automotive industry cannot just rely on one speciality. The requirement to have a variety of skill sets today is much more important than ever imagined before. The days where a mechanical engineer did mechanical engineering and a controls engineer did controls engineering, as an example, is kind of obsolete. Today, we need to have mechatronics. We need to have people that have a prevalence in one, but a working knowledge of another. So what we're seeing in the organization, this broad range of skills that people need is kind of an entry card now, and a kind of a necessity for the key industrial players to be able to function in the future years. Just looking at the changes in chemistry in the battery technology can give you a flavor that being a chemist is not enough, and being a vehicle architect is not enough. There's a requirement for the two to be able to work together. The next page. And again, reflecting on what we've seen in our organization over the last years, the talent that you need is not readily available on the market. In batteries in particular, people with relevant industrial experience are in high demand. They are a scarce resource. And companies like Comau, we've been faced with different conundrums to be able to adapt our workforce for the type of business that we're securing. And we worked on reskilling and upskilling. So we've had to take a stock of the resources that we've had, and we developed our own internal process for training our people to have this capability to master other technologies that maybe they didn't do before. Traditionally in automotive, powertrain engineering and the vehicle engineering are two completely different worlds, and not easily transferable between one and the other. Today, with the electrification, the desire to have people that have got that capability in both is in significantly high demand. And one of the ways that you're able to achieve that is to be able to train the people you've got to learn and teach them new skills. And if you go to the next page, And this is the example of the methodology that we used. And not to go through too much detail, but we developed obviously a level 1 and a level 2 based upon people's existing competencies, skills and experiences. And then we took them through a series of modules. We also trained a series of of subject matter experts with the intention to train the trainers. So having a methodology to transform this learning and then expand it in the organization. And we did two fundamental activities. We did the theoretical side through a series of modules that you see on the left-hand side. And then we applied that in kind of a gymnastic role on the right-hand side. So we gave the people the opportunity to go and test their new skills in a controlled environment, in a real job, and to give them the opportunity to actually utilize the training that we've given them. Next page. The third point is the change in the automotive industry, and it's happening really quickly. So I gave you in the first slides of this presentation some pictures of the market in 2019, the picture of ARENA in 2019, some data from IHS in 2019 and 20. It's happening faster. This technology is being adopted. And organizations need to anticipate the needs of the business. In particular for Comau, we've had to accelerate a number of programs in terms of learning, in some cases hiring, and to adopt new technologies, or new technologies, but also new ways of working. So like agile methodology to proceed with product development faster, to get minimum viable products into the market faster, to using, let me say, a more flexible way of running the business and utilizing the resources. And of course, to be able to do that, you require a workforce which is flexible, not only in terms of flexibility of their availability, but flexibility in their capability. And again, coming back to the point of one skill is not enough anymore. We need people with some skills in hardware, some skills in software, some understanding in mechatronics, as an example. And we as an organization, we have to be competitive. We have to be at the front of the journey, in front of our customers, who are fundamentally automotive companies. And it requires us to think a different way of developing, utilizing and deploying the resources in end projects. Next page. Having the plan and the strategy is crucial. And again, we talk about it, we keep re-emphasizing the point about fast changes driven by technology, changes driven by markets, changes driven by economic and financial requirements, and having a plan and developing the plan and having those resources available to be able to support the plan at the point in time where they're needed on the plan is also extremely important for us. And number 5, the next slide. The diversity conversation, and we hear it as a buzzword, but it's not just a buzzword. People talk about diversity. We're looking today in our organization, in particular, we have huge competencies in Asia, in China, in India. We have representation in all of our European countries. We have representation in North and South America. And we need and we promote and advocate that we have this diversity in approach. Individual people with individual skills and individual knowledges on subject matter experts need to have the ability to share their information on a wider perspective. For example, if we do a project in North America, having the resources with all of the skills in North America is sometimes very difficult. And for example, we need to have that diversity and that capability to integrate all cultures, all languages, all competencies, and all experience. Next page. So, in conclusion, and this is my last slide, electrification is gaining momentum across all of industries. Our focus in Comau is on automotive and renewables, but we see it in all walks of life. We do quite a considerable amount of consultancy for non-automotive companies in terms of developing their product plans, developing their industrialization plans. On-highway transportation or automotive passenger vehicles, trucks and buses is a front runner. So you see it every day with the developments of the vehicle manufacturers, driving huge range of investment, technical development, and challenges in skills and competencies. Some of the technologies are still developing: renewable energy, solar, wind, hydrogen, battery cells. They all face generational changes of technological capability, not only to keep up with the demand, but to keep up with the state of the art of what the end users need to deliver to their markets. The transformation to the electrical vehicle, which we've touched a lot on in this presentation, creating a different mix of skills and competencies, and leading to a continually changing picture of requirements and needs, and finally, the need for rounded skills, technical, marketing, business competence become more prevalent in the minds of potential employers. When we go to the market and we're looking for people with pretty broad ranges of capability, not so much individual skills as we move forward. Okay, I hope that's all understood. Thank you for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Andy. It's great to have that level of insight, and I hope colleagues on the call, you'll appreciate the opportunities here and how important it is for us to have a partner who's so central to the electrical automotive industry. And I hope that gives you the confidence that we're coming at this from Pearson BTEC with that level of subject expertise to be able to support you in teaching and learning context. Just to emphasise what Claire raised earlier, if you've got any questions, if you just pop them into chat for the moment, we'll come to questions at the end. I'm going to talk a little bit now about the BTEC qualifications and the range of support materials that we have available for you. And I will give a short demo of Pearson Learning Hub so you can see some of our resources. So I'll just, So we've worked very closely with Comau and experts in Comau to develop a BTEC International Level 3 suite of qualifications in electrical automotive manufacture. And really, I just wanted to give you a little overview of those. And I think I'm drawing on and emphasising what Andy's been raising about the importance of developing a workforce who are may have a specialism, but also have a broad level of knowledge and have that potential to adapt within an industry which is changing very, very frequently. So our learners, where they do our qualifications, they can opt to do a diploma size, which for us is 720 guided learning hours, so that's GLH, or an extended diploma, which is 1080 guided learning hours. So they're larger programs. Most of our learners are 16 plus, and they'll take the qualifications between the ages of 16 and 18. They will study core manufacture units, in essence, core engineering units, so covering mechanical principles, health and safety, design and manufacture, modern manufacturing systems, and electrical electronic principles. All of our students will do those units. They will then do our new electrical automotive engineering units, and I'll give you an overview of those units shortly. But they then do a selection of optional units, and those are pretty wide ranging. There's a choice of around 60 units they can do. And they do touch into a lot of those areas which Andy has drawn out. So things like robotics, things like digital, things like mechatronics, as well as design type units, computer-aided design, etc., as well as vehicle technology. So some of the older units we have in vehicle technology, and we do realise that the industry is in transition, and some of our learners are going to be supporting that transition out from existing industry into new industry. So the opportunity is there for the BTEC to support learners in having a breadth of knowledge, but also to develop that specific knowledge in electrical automotive engineering. So those electrical automotive units, so most of our units in BTEC, if you're not familiar with BTEC, I say that BTEC is a unitized curriculum. What that means is that we divide that 720 hours or that 1,080 hours. Sounds like a lot of hours, but it's principally a 2-year study period. And that's divided into chunks of 60, 90 or 120 hours. And those are discrete elements of curriculum, which a learner will study. They'll develop their practical skills, and then they'll be assessed on those areas of study, and then they'll move on to another area of study. Some of those units also are more holistic, so particularly project type units. Within those project type units, they can draw across their study and contribute to their projects. So within that framework, we've developed these electrical automotive units with Comau. So we have a unit on battery manufacture, so knowledge about batteries used in electric and hybrid vehicles, the operating principles of hybrid and electric vehicles, the manufacture of batteries, and safe working practices in that manufacture. There's a unit on electric and hybrid vehicle motors, so looking at drive systems, construction and operation, manufacturing equipment and processes, and elements of safety and manufacturing ergonomics. Third unit is on electrical vehicle drives, so knowledge about the operating systems of electrical vehicles, transmission systems, manufacturing assembly, and safe working practices, and then finally a unit on e-mobility. So the infrastructure, understand the infrastructure necessary to support electric and hybrid vehicle integration, policies that manage the transition to environmentally supportive transport, end-of-life requirements in terms of electric and hybrid vehicles, and other efficient fuel systems available for vehicles. So those are the 4 units which we've developed. So learners within those units, they'll study the knowledge. So there will be study within those units, but there are also practical skills. So they're looking at practical examples, practical scenarios, opportunities to develop those practical skills. And the assessment in BTEC is we favour practical assessment where those learners can apply their knowledge in problem solving scenarios. So typically a learner will do an assignment. Where we can, we require a learner to demonstrate some practical skills. We will allow for simulation. We recognise that learners may not have access to all of the necessarily all of the scenarios or workplaces which they need in order to develop skills. So we allow for simulation in some circumstances. And very much that assessment is about developing their practical skills and applying knowledge into those skills and understanding why they are doing things in a particular way. And I think drawing on the second point I wanted to draw on from what Andy was saying was that adaptability. So BTEC is very much focused on that wider skills development. So you get opportunities to develop problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, communication skills, etc. By the very nature of the assessment being about developing practical skills and applying knowledge into practical skills. So all of our units are mapped into transferable skills, and opportunities to develop those transferable skills made evident through the learning and assessment. So as I say, the qualification is comprised of units. Each of those units has learning outcomes, and those learning outcomes describe what a learner should be able to, should know, understand, be able to do. Each unit has a set of assessment criteria which allow for learners to demonstrate their knowledge, understanding and skills. And in assessment of each of those units, learners will complete an integrated assignment, and each assignment will be completed after each unit. And of course, Pearson BTEC, we provide authorised assignment briefs. So we help you with that assignment process. We provide the information which you need in teaching in order to support that assessment process. So I wanted to talk a little bit about resources, and I think, I mean, this is where you know, Pearson, BTEC, and Comau, we really sort of have the opportunity to work together and to really support you in teaching. And I think we recognise as teachers and the teaching profession that there's a lot of change going on in industry. We don't expect that you are going to be fully conversant with every area of the engineering industry or the vehicle industry, and we feel that it's up to us to make those links with employers when we're developing our products and resources, so that we can support you in that teaching journey. So therefore, we've worked with industry to develop resources which will support teaching and learning of this electrical automotive manufacture qualification. So you can rest assured that you've got that basis to support the teaching and support that learner journey. And as Andy was saying, there's been a lot of change, a lot of work has been done by Comau to structure their learning. So they've been looking at the learning which employers will do when they get into the workplace, and the upskill which they need in order to be successful in the workplace. And that is the learning which we've drawn on and worked with in Comau to repurpose for the student learning experience. So we've directly drawn and repurposed that learning so that it can be applied within the BTEC. So hopefully that gives you some confidence that learners who are both undertaking the BTEC qualification, but also using these resources, that you have that bedrock really for that learning. So across these new qualifications, we have those core units. So as I described earlier on, we have those mandatory units covering engineering principles. So we have ebook resources which cover all of those units and support teaching and learning of those units. The electrical automotive units, we've developed online resources, which I will show you now. And they support the entirety of those units. So you can use those as a framework to support teaching and learning of those 4 new units. We also have authorised assignment briefs, as I've said, and we have schemes of work as well to help you structure that 6 guided learning hours per unit time, so that you can draw on those in terms of structuring the learning experience. And they obviously align with our resources. So I'll take this opportunity to just come out of the slide deck. So we host our resources on Pearson Learning Hub. And we have both a teacher and a student access point for Pearson Learning Hub. So if you work with us and you're developing, you're using our resources, both the teacher and all students will have access to Learning Hub. As a teacher, you'll be able to connect Learning Hub to PowerPoint or project from Learning Hub to in a classroom environment, or some of these resources you can set as homework, students can take those away. You're able obviously to track a student progress, so if you set them a module or modules for homework, you can see how far they've got. Students within the learning environment can communicate, you can track that conversation and intervene and support the student conversation also. So there are there's a range of access, a range of points in which you can support the learning environment within the Learning Hub technology. So when a learner will log into Learning Hub, this is what they'll see. All of the courses which they can access. I'm going to go into the electrical and hybrid vehicle motors course. So there are, I think there's about 150, 160 assets in this course. They act sequentially, and I'll show you how that run through works. So I'll click into the course itself. There are navigation bars at the top, so you can just click through the course, but I'm going to go straight into Learning AMA. Have a look at this content on drive systems, and just so I can show you some examples of the types of materials which we've got. So you've got opportunities for online discussion. So this is a discussion about the benefits and drawbacks of hybrid vehicles. So you can set this, learners can start threads. And as I say, as a teacher, you can intervene and intervene into that conversation. There's then various assets in the resources. So this one is looking at drive systems and gearboxes, and gives some information about that. You've got information on drive system and flywheel motors. I'll keep just for the next couple to show you some of the assets. So these are assets which Comau are using in their teaching and learning. This is about a Porsche GT3R hybrid powertrain. There is a video, and there are video assets throughout this to help sort of contribute to the interactivity of the resources, and various assessment tasks which support the teaching and learning. There are some presentations as well, which will and tasks which you can set, presentations that you can give to students, and then homework tasks which students can take away. So we've designed this to support an interactive classroom and a blended learning environment, so that you can have that structure from the teaching and learning resources, but also use that within a blended environment, a more practical setting within the classroom. So that was just to give you a flavour of Learning Hub assets. And if you do work with us and you do decide to offer this qualification, we do of course offer a more intensive demonstration of the resources as part of our onboarding for you. So I'm just going to go back into the presentation. Yeah, so that was just a screenshot of one of the screens which I've just shown. So just wanted to say a couple of words about progression. So our BTEC qualifications, they're designed for the international level 3 to align in sizes to A-levels and international A-levels. And that's the same in the UK. We have a relationship between BTECs and A-levels in the UK. So our international level 3 diploma, the 720 is a 2 A-level equivalent, and learners potentially could be taking an international A-level alongside that. Perhaps they have home curriculum which they need to sit, or they may take another vocational qualification to make up that time in that 16 to 18 age range. The 1080 is 3 A-levels equivalent. That could be a full-time course. And learners, in terms of progression from that course, potentially could be going into industry. So they could be going into job roles where level 3 job roles from that course. They could be progressing into higher level vocational education, and many of our learners do also progress into degrees, and we have various relationships and acceptances from universities internationally for learners who want to progress into more technical degrees at university and then go on into the workplace. And I think it's the fact that learners are developing skills within the electrical automotive, which have been supported by and developed by Comau with industry, really sort of supports their progression route, wherever they take that route, whether they go straight into industry or whether they go into further education as a result of the courses. So really just to wrap up in terms of this, I think, just to emphasize that we do support the teaching and learning here. We're recognising in Pearson, as I've said, many emerging new industries, a lot of transition in industry, not least because of the situation of the last couple of years, and many learners who are looking at new industries in order for progression. But recognising that as a teacher, to give you the confidence that we can support that student learning journey. So these resources developed by Comau hopefully give you that confidence, and what Andy said, that we're a partnership. We're in a partnership with an employer who's at the centre of the electrical automotive industry. BTEC, I think, is the right. We think it's the right product for learners, blended learning environment, that opportunity to develop practical skills, but also the knowledge which underpins those skills. So the learners actually, have a real sort of grounding in terms of their understanding of those skills, plus also those wider skills, those wider problem-solving skills. So really, yes, we wanted to raise some questions. We had some initial questions, which I hope that we've covered. So one was on, if you're not an electrical auto specialist, can you teach who to do this? And we would say, yes, you can. Obviously, as a teacher, and hopefully it's a learning experience for yourself as well. But we've got these resources which will support your teaching. So if you've come from vehicle technology, but you're looking to introduce some of these electrical automotive units, then hopefully you feel that confidence that we've got the support for you there. Digital content, I've given you a very brief demo, I appreciate that, but if you do come with us and do run these qualifications, then obviously we'll give you more access and more demonstrations, so you get that confidence from the resources. If you're a registered centre for BTEC, how is it to apply to offer this course? Will you need a separate SV visits, etc.? That will depend on your profile with Pearson. So if you're offering engineering, it's a straightforward process to add this onto your course. If you don't offer engineering yet, then we'll be asking you for teacher qualifications, etc. But it's a straightforward process to add a qualification onto your profile. We do try to, in terms of our quality assurance, to work across sectors. So if you're already offering in engineering, we will look at the quality assurance of your process across all the sectors which you offer, all within that engineering sector. And I've covered a little bit the progression issue in question 4. And thank you everybody for attending, and great to see you all online, and we'll send around the information for you, and hopefully we can we'll be in conversation again.